Hello and welcome to St. Louis on Stage this week, where we celebrate the people, productions, stories, opportunities, and ideas that keep St. Louis theater alive. Please take a moment to like and subscribe and select the notification bell so you'll always know when the latest episode drops. This week, we're talking to the director and an actor from Extremities by Stray Dog Theater. Please welcome, along with my guest host to the show. Hello, Claire.
Hi, thank you so much for having us.
Oh, thank you for being on it. Hello, Gary. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Fantastic. And Sarah, how are you today?
Doing just great, Troy. Thanks for having me back.
Fantastic. Okay, so Extremities. What a show. Before the show, Gary, you even mentioned this may be one of the most intense shows you've done. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but what made you choose Extremities to do it, and why now?
Well, again, I have known the play for a long, long time, and I wanted to wait until I had the right time in my season and my brain power and my brain length and the right people, and it just felt right at a certain point. And I always just felt I had a lot to say about women and the unfortunate issue of assault and how you can overcome that in a unique way. Again, the playwright really was taking the information from a story of a woman that he knew who had been assaulted, and she had said to him there was a moment when she possibly had a chance to maybe get away and hurt him, but she did not take that, and she often regrets that. However, the other side could have been, if she was unsuccessful, she could have been killed. So
Right.
taking that little kernel of information, he created a play where the victim does get the chance to trap her assailant in her home, and goes through a lot of mind confusing issues. He says to her, the assault actually didn't, the rape didn't actually happen. So he says to her, no one's going to believe you. And if you don't let me out, you will not be believed. The cops won't believe you. So unfortunately, he maybe shouldn't have said that because she decides not to let him out.
Right.
Then she's visited by two of her roommates as they come home, and they're all.
I was gonna, get into that. So and that became some other perspectives.
Yep, and so he brings in a lot of perspectives about what would you do or what could happen. I kind of directed it more of an allegory. The idea of that happening is a tiny bit far fetched, but I wanted to just play into that dynamic of that. What if it could happen? Our set was representational of the mess in the mind that Marjorie has to deal with. It was kind of broken, and it was a very interesting show. A lot of responses were unique.
Okay, so Claire, to take on the role of Marjorie, I can't imagine. There had to be a point where you were not just as an actor to be afraid, but even emotionally as a person, how this would impact you. How did you feel going into this role?
Sure. Well, when I first read the script, I knew what it was about, but you read those first 10 pages and you're like, oh my God, it's really, really bad. It's almost as bad as you could possibly imagine that premise to be, in terms of the dialogue. And so I did kind of hesitate. But every time as an actor that I've encountered something where I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I can do that on stage, or I don't know how that's going to look or feel. Every time I've pushed through that, I've been really, really rewarded, and it's ended up being a really great experience that expands the bounds of what I feel I can do as an actor. So I felt like I wanted to go for it. I felt like overall the script there's so many clever things about the way that it's written that made it really a worthwhile story to tell. And of course I knew the whole team at Stray Dog, and that also made a huge, huge impact on, my decision to trust them with that process. And I'm super glad I did. I'm really, really proud of it. And it ended up being a great experience.
Oh, that's magnificent. That's magnificent. Gary, you had to create an amount of trust. Like you said, Claire, you already knew Gary, you knew Stray Dog, but the trust that has to be between
Mhm.
the attacker and Marjorie character.
Well, the
Mhm.
theater gods played a really great part in that. As I was casting, there's a week when I'm casting, when I'm choosing who's going to be who, and then they hear in a week after the callbacks. And I knew that it was going to be Claire at some point, but I really was hoping that I could get a gentleman who I knew. If you know the person, it's sometimes a little bit easier. Not to say an actor you didn't know could have gone there, but it's just nice to know if it was somebody that I was aware of that I could
There's certain
trust.
hurdles that you've already
Yeah.
gotten past. Yeah.
So I'm not a social media person at all. I have no personal Facebook, Instagram at all. Nothing. I
Mhm.
only have Stray Dog Theater on my Facebook.
Right.
So I use my friends to do all my digging and finding. And so I contacted my friend Stephen Pyrick and I said, this guy I want to use, Andrew Woodard, um, can you find out from the theater world, like some dirt on him? Is he good? Is he a good guy? What do we know? Well, he did a big dive, deep search and couldn't find anybody who knew him except for Claire. So I was in a position then to go, okay, I might have to contact Claire and let her know she got the role early
Yeah.
so she can share information on this guy. And I did that. And I said, you have to keep it in the vault that I'm telling you casting before it's time to cast. But what do you know about this guy? And she said, well, actually, I sent him to you to audition, and I never told you because I wanted him to have his own uh, time with you and adventures with you, but I know him very, very well. And so I know him as a friend, and I feel very comfortable with him. So I was like, well, that's very fortuitous. That's good, because he was the guy that I wanted to go with.
Yeah, it really worked out. I knew Andrew from we did Arcadia at O'Fallon Theater Works together.
Right.
And we actually never were we never acted together in that show, but that was
Because
how
yeah, it was past in the future in that. Which role were you in that?
What's that?
Yeah, which role did you play in Arcadia?
Oh, I played Hannah. And he played Chater, which was one of the characters in the 1800s cast, and I was in the modern cast.
That's the misogyny. That's so.
Yeah.
Yes, I know exactly what you're referring to. Yeah.
Yeah, but we met and we decided we wanted to work together again. And it's funny, we auditioned for a couple of shows, not like together, but for the same shows. And Extremities was the first time it worked out that we were cast together. So we were like, oh boy.
Jumping right at the deep end there. Yeah.
Yeah. The weird thing is, I knew all the other actors, but I thought that he had done the best. And I try to always go with who has done the best. So I thought, well, let me see what I can find out.
Right.
So that it ended up working out very well. Them knowing each other and overcoming that intimacy that they have to find very fast really forged us ahead. And without a lot of getting to know each other in meetings and fight choreography things and all that stuff, I thought we were able to get through all those processes very fast. So that was very good.
Yeah, that's my and what a strange coincidence that the person you wanted, and I mean that's perfect.
Yeah, yeah, that's a theater god thing for sure.
Right, exactly. Yeah, Thespis was there causing.
It was meant to be. Yeah, the other two actors, Lisa Hendricks and then Lynette Vallejo, were also really wonderful. I had never worked with three of them. I've worked with Claire before, but the other three were all new to our theater.
Yeah.
There are rumors around town that we only cast our friends, but proof in that pudding is that 75% of the cast had never worked with me.
Except in reality and in action.
Yeah, I go with whoever I think is the best. They were just phenomenal as well in their roles.
Right, that's magnificent. And it seems like, Claire, you would have to, you're in this intense situation, but you have to have a relationship built with those people prior so that the reactions about what's going on are to that next level. That had to be hard too.
Yeah, I didn't know the girls, Lynette and Lisa, beforehand, but they were just wonderful to work with. Very talented, very warm and friendly. And I mean, I feel like as a cast, we not only did we keep it light, but we stayed very engaged. Like the whole time before and after the show, we're talking and chatting. And I think it helped to feel close to them right before going out and doing that.
Yeah, magnificent. Okay, so I have a question. I'm going to ask both Sarah and Claire this question. A theater teacher, as I was writing a piece once, called me in and spoke to me and said, you have to understand one thing. Men and women fear different things. Women fear being raped and killed, and men fear being laughed at. The perspective there is so utterly different. to take this on just as a woman, how does a role like this and how the thought of this role, as I see this, I mean, my heart is in my throat when I see situations like this, but I can't feel it in a way that I've ever felt that fear. I can't honestly relate to that. I don't know that I would be as brave as the author to write a piece, um, to be able to write the women truthfully in a situation like this. I
Mhm.
haven't felt that. How What are your thoughts on that? How does it impact you when you watch a show like this, when you participate in a show like this, read roles like this that are so intense beyond anything I think I could even fathom?
Yeah. I am sort of fortunate in that I am not an actor who experiences a lot of like emotional bleed. I don't need to do a lot of sort of deep diving into the characters in her life. I feel that I can leave it all on stage. And so that made me a very good fit for this show, I think. But even so, I mean, it is challenging. You do have to go to a really ugly headspace. The thing that helps is the container. You have the lines, you have the story, you have your team of people, you trust the actor in front of you. And so you just run it enough that you can safely go to that place when you're in the scene and then come out of it. And it's not easy, but it is, doable sustainably. And then again, personally, I'm I don't want to say good at that. I think that's sort of misleading, but my brain works in a way where that works for me, and I feel safe
Compartmentalize
inside
it
of
as
it.
the work and the self, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
'Cause I think it
Although I will say that, and I wasn't expecting this. This has been a learning curve with this show. Um, the physical tension, because then for 2 hours, my body's in flight or flight essentially, and I'm physically doing all these things. You have the fight choreography. I'm hitting Andrew with a stick, whatever. The physical tension really has stayed with me way more than the emotional or the mental stuff. Like I'll wake up like tense, like a shrimp.
yeah,
So I'm still getting rid of that.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and Gary and Claire, tell me if this resonates with you, but thinking about that universal nature of fear for women, I think there's a trap with plays like this that fairly or not can get labeled as an issue play.
Mhm.
That you play the issue, you play the universal, you play the archetype instead of playing the specific person who is reacting to the other specific people on stage.
Mhm.
And if you focus on making these individual people who are reacting rather than thinking about, well, women in this situation would do this, feel this. When you're thinking about Marjorie in this situation, is this person experiencing this thing? That makes it a lot less fraught. It gives a roadmap, as Claire was saying. And in the end, it doesn't even really matter that we're talking about a societal issue when we're looking just at the work on stage, because it's not about, for these characters, it's not about the issue of sexual assault against women. It's about what is happening here tonight in this room.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I found it interesting because myself and then Jude, who was our co-director, I really wanted to have a woman in the room as well. We had a harder time, I think, on the other side of the stage because we had to watch this over and over while they're working. Their brains are thinking lines, fight choreography, blocking. Parts of their brains are being usurped and used by getting the work done on stage, where we're watching it happen over and over.
Right.
I broke this play into different sections, and normally I can do a section like maybe 2 or 3 times. Oftentimes I could just do it once. It was just too much to watch. And then it kind of can mess with your head a little bit. So you have to kind of just step away and process and do your own thing. I tend to be very empathetic and very sensitive
Exactly.
person.
That's where.
It depends on each individual is different traits and qualities to them. I think those are the qualities that also make me a good director, but they're also bringing a lot of emotion and stuff that goes into it.
You're on the ride too. Yeah.
Yeah. But what really made it was when we had the talk back, and a lot of people stayed that Saturday night. We had a talk back, and one story in particular really touched me is a subscriber couple who had been there for a long time, along with us, have been long-time subscribers. A woman was shared her story of assault. The next day, the male subscriber, her husband, emailed me and said he had never heard that story. And he asked his wife, why haven't you never told me that? And she goes, I thought that I had, this kind of how we save ourselves, protect ourselves. So there are a lot of interesting stories from women and men. There are actually two couples where they came to see the show on different nights, different couples, but there were two, the same thing happened, is that the woman had to leave the space and listen from the lobby, and the husband stayed and watched the show. They just had different experiences, and then he would come out and they'd chat at intermission and then go back in. So we were kind of letting people process it in their own way. We had to just say, here's a show. If it's for you, we're very clear about what you're going to see. Trigger warnings were everywhere. The graphics for the show are fairly clear. So if you walked in not knowing anything, that's sort of a kind of on you kind of thing. The way the graphics are even designed, it doesn't look like, hello, dolly. So we just wanted to be really clear so people knew what they were getting into. But the wide variety of discussions, people saying we talked about it forever afterwards. To me, that's what art is. When you can move people to talk, to think, to challenge, and especially in difficult situations.
To go back to what Sarah said, it seems like it's a topic play, or people can say that or label them that way. But then I think of when you said it's about character, I think people that are in situations like that don't ever go, oh gosh, that'll happen to me. But if they're in a situation with SA, I think then they are probably in that moment when they are, oh, I am one of those people. I am in it. It is happened to me, or it did happen to me. Nobody goes, I'm in this, chooses to be in a situation like that. That's where I think it's going to thrust upon them, which is what happens to the character in the play. I mean, it happens. It's not something that they sought out or anything, obviously. Claire, I was going to ask you, what is it in those talkbacks? How rewarding was it to hear people that connected with the work that you did? As horrible as what they may have connected with, it I don't know, that there has to be a safety in going, somebody else gets it, somebody else has seen it, and
it's very, very special to see the women in particular and how they've been affected by the story and how they feel like they've been seen or represented in some way. I mean, that's absolutely a huge part of why we did it. And it's also really interesting just to hear people's different perspectives on the story. Some people like, I don't want to like go into spoiler. I mean, the show's closed, but I still don't want to go into story spoilers. But like, there's things that happen that people interpret in completely surprising ways to me, and that's so interesting. But yeah, it's really, really affecting to hear those stories and for people to feel vulnerable enough to share that with us.
Right. Okay. So, and just for either one of you, or Sarah, even you, at this time in this place in our community, what do you think this show means? Like Gary, you were saying this is as intensive a show as you've ever done. How do you think that impacts the community or helps the community or opens up a discussion?
Well, it brings around the unfortunate result that things haven't really changed that much in some areas, and that people need to address these issues still, that they're still happening. And I did a lot of research about this, and certain things that are obvious become even more obvious when you read it and you go, well, that's true. It's a crime that is often witnessless, right? It's usually just two people. There's no one else there witnessing this. So it's a lot of he said, she said. And there's a lot of that going on that still continues in this day and age.
Right.
So it's a very complex situation, story, themes, and all that's in the play. So I think anything that can get us off of our technology. I tend to be a Luddite by nature and
Right.
actually sit in a room and have a human conditioned conversation. That's why I do what I do. I think is great, whether it's a very happy, thrilling conversation for a show or a show like this, which can be very troubling. You can literally see the cathartic nature that's folks were going through as they were able to share the stories. And it had opened these things up, right? These places in them. And even if that happens to 10 people out of maybe hundreds who've seen the show, I really think that that's what art is. You can look at something and someone can go, well, it looks like a piece of trash if it's a visual art, and someone else can go, it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And
Absolutely.
that's what happened on this show. Some people are like, not for me, no way, and other people are like, I'm in. So that's why we do what we do, right?
Right. Well, and as anything in the world we're in, that it's a necessary conversation that somehow is, just not talked about sometimes. Like, and it's, I don't know,
Gary,
alarming.
Gary, I'm wondering, and you've had all of about 30 seconds to process what you're taking out of this show. So maybe the answer is just that you have no idea yet. But given all of those reactions that you had from audience members, do you have anything that you're taking with you as you plan your future seasons that maybe you weren't thinking about before?
I think because we've been doing this for 25 years, I've kind of been through all that thoughts. I've always want to have something in the show that's going to be very kind of what we call the art show. There's going to be very meaningful to go through. Next season is going to be Red, about Rothko the painter. I always have, there has to be one show like that. This is not the show that's going to sell the most bucks, but hopefully it moves more people, It's a business. It's called show business for a reason. And if I did all the shows I ever wanted to do in a season, we would be so broke because I like all the weird avant-garde things that people don't even know about. But we have our 9 to 5s and fun things like that, which carry on over to people love them and they're super, but they help process the shows that we do that are really on my heart. But I've been able to accomplish a lot of that with Angels in America, with the Normal Heart, the very difficult shows about situations that are tough. But I would say the main thing that I take away from this, and I think that I don't always share this with my actors, so Claire's going to get a little secret insight, is I'm just as unaware, terrified, scared of how people are going to take what we've created. Are they going to like it for what it needs to be liked for, dislike for what it needs to be disliked for? I have no clue. So I say I take to my bed after a hard night of directing and just stay there for a while with a cup of coffee to recover, because it's exhausting trying to create something that's not just for you, but for the people who are coming to see you, who have relied on you as a artist. And I'm always kind of like, what are they going to see? I don't tell them that because I have to be the dad for them, because those
He does
terrified
project
too.
absolute confidence to us.
Yeah, I'm good at faking confidence. But when Mr. Mastro Simone did call me, and I don't think you heard this, Sarah, but the playwright actually called me from his home and left a message, and I spoke with him. I picked up the phone. And when he said, wow, I've read the review, and if you're doing this show like this review states, you've really hit this exactly where I want it to be. I was like, well, that answer's done now. I can get a sticker that says playwright approved. So that was a very nice thing for him to do. And he also wrote Richard Green, who was a reviewer, to share that he thought the review was wonderful. How he just revealed enough and not too much about the show to get people to see it. And so that was a rewarding thing. But it can be hard. It can be hard for me too. I don't show it. I hide things very well. But
Well, and there's the necessity of creating. We have to. It's almost like, yeah, I'm gonna put my through this, but what's the alternative? You know?
Well,
Mhm.
and this also is unique. Earlier on in my seasons, like years ago, maybe halfway through, I was less concerned about my relationship with the audience because I didn't know them that well. But I'm at every show. I'm always there. So I know these people by name now. You feel much more attached to their feelings and not wanting to upset them. And then you realize you have to separate that as an artist and just go do your work. It gets harder to be purist about them and just go, but this was a really interesting thing that Jude, who's also roughly my age in my 60s, and I learned we were being a bit ageist to some of our older subscribers because we thought, older women are coming and they have to be careful because they're precious and this and that. And then we looked at each other and said, these people have lived lives. They've lived just as long as lives that we had. And what are we doing? They're not little precious little old ladies walking into the place. They know what things are about. They've
Right.
had sex, they've had relationships, they've had breakups, they've had a heartache. And some of them, shared with us their experiences that were similar to the show.
Yeah.
And we're seniors, and we're doing the same thing. But it's just those weird traps that are still in our brains sometimes. We have to clean out and change the viewpoint about what's real.
Absolutely. I I don't know if this has any if this doesn't go any I definitely don't want to derail the conversation, but the show and what I know about it takes me to the situation of the manosphere nowadays. Uh,
Mm.
the perception of I don't know, it just seems like um, women are beneath or whatever.
Yeah, well, there was the whole Me Too movement and then the backlash to that, which
Right.
is that young men now feel empowered to openly say that women are objects and should serve them. It's fucking crazy. Sorry, I hope I can curse on this.
No, because it is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, the show is very relevant in that way, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay, so Claire, what do you have? What are you doing next? Are you already casting a show? I mean, I can't
course she
imagine
is.
you're going to go directly in again. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I do have a couple things lined up before the end of the year. I have a show in October that the cast has not been announced yet, so I don't think I can say. But then after that, my December show is with Tesseract Theater Company. I'm playing Waverly in Recent Tragic Events, which is a really unusual straight play. The premise is that there's a woman on a blind date set in 2001. It's actually set on 9/11. So 9/11 has just happened and they're on this date. Of course, the vibe is weird. And she also has a twin sister who is in New York and she cannot get a hold of her. And so it's kind of a tragic comedy. There's some surreal elements. It should be really, really interesting. And I'm really excited about it.
Well, and then I know The Mercy Seat is also being produced, which also occurs on 9/11.
Oh, does it?
And I think there's even a third, and it's about a relationship and they're trapped somewhere kind of. So very interesting. I'm excited to see all these shows because
Yeah, for sure.
lived through that moment. So yeah. And is your next show a little lighter in nature besides the one not announced yet? If you need to go,
it's hard to not be lighter than Extremities.
I think everything's about lighter than that show.
Right.
It's the darkest show we've done for sure.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on that manosphere comment. I find it interesting how different artists gravitate towards certain energies. Our theater company is it has a lot of feminine energy about it. We have lots of female shows. If you look back at our cast, ironically enough, we just have a lot of female-focused roles. I'm more of a Tennessee Williams guy as opposed to a Mamet guy, so I would be more romanticized. I just think it's interesting that those things are true, but one thing that's true about Marjorie is how she takes on such an aggressive persona and can find those typically male, attributes, as they would say in our culture, and has to swing back and forth and make those decisions.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that was actually one of the harder things about her, is to not get too angry and too aggressive. I had to purposefully keep that vulnerability for as long as I could. Because as an actor, it's easy to go for full intensity and just embody that. But it's actually in some ways, it's harder to be soft and be vulnerable on stage when all that adrenaline is in your body and all of that.
Yeah.
Right. Which, and what was the character was going through. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
And at Stray Dog, we have Lizzie coming up, another,
Yes.
female focused show. And then Penelope, again, also female focused, all female casts. Yeah, it's interesting how we lean more towards, and this show is not a comedy, but it is a punk rock version of Lizzie Borden. Very interesting dynamic.
Well, and Lizzie took a different route than Marjorie did.
Yeah.
Like
And Lizzie,
decision made. Yeah.
and Lizzie got off for her supposed crimes. She was never, she was acquitted.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting dynamic.
And then you have a Stray Pups show coming, right?
Yeah, the Lightning Thief is coming up. That's going to be fun with Sarah Jean and the kids. I was just down there today. She's making these crazy costumes and designs and doing all the good stuff that she does. So we do, 6 adult shows and 3 shows this season. Senior Theater, New Works Laboratory. Keeps us a little busy.
A little bit busy as you're closing the show and auditioning another show. And
we had auditions during the run of this show. They were last week and we were still running, and next week is callbacks. It never ends. But it's a good thing for me. I'm a very energetic guy, and if I'm not busy, I get real grumpy.
Right.
So,
right.
I like to be busy.
Well, magnificent. Well, this has been an absolutely fantastic episode. Claire, thank you for joining us and sharing your insights.
You.
Gary, thank you so much for telling me a little history of how this even came to be. And
You're welcome. Thank you.
And Sarah, for joining in the conversation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, always good to see you, Sarah. Pleasantly surprised. I did not expect you. Then here you are. It's nice to see you.
And that's what everybody says about Sarah. Everybody. It's wonderful. Well, this has been another tremendous episode of St. Louis on Stage this week. I want to thank both of you for so generously giving of your time, and Sarah for joining us as a guest host again. I also wish to thank all of you for watching, listening, and supporting St. Louis Theater. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and hey, go see a play.